Hello and welcome to another episode of Sexuality 101. I am Candace Blair Isaacs of CBI Coaching. Now, have you ever wondered what is a sexuality coach? And if you've listened to me for any period of time or if you've read some of the things that I've written, you've seen where I've put that every married couple, or if you're engaged to be married, you need a sexuality coach. Well, I am a sexuality coach, and I help married couples who wants to enhance their sexuality in their marriage, or maybe they are frustrated, or maybe not even at the level of frustration, but know and understand that they are not at their optimum in their marriage. So I help married couples to become very comfortable with each other, where they're able to spur one another on towards love and good works by optimizing the level of intimacy in their marriage. And so you get there by being comfortable with one another. And as a sexuality coach, that's part of what I do. I come alongside you to help you to become comfortable enough with your spouse in order to optimize your level of intimacy. And one of the ways I do that is by, coming along with you and helping you to spur one another on towards love and good works. And that's what it tells us in Hebrews chapter 10, verse number 24. It says, "And let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works." And this is done by considering your spouse, okay, by not being selfish. And you do that by wanting to optimize all areas of intimacy in your marriage. Now, as a sexuality coach, and you may be wondering exactly what is a sexuality coach, because when I've mentioned this to people, or when someone comes to me and say, "Hey, I hear you're a sexuality coach," and they're thinking, "So you teach people how to have sex?" And I'm like, "Well, not, think bigger than that. Think much bigger than that." That is a small piece of the puzzle here, because a lot of people cannot even get to having sex because there's no emotional intimacy. Okay, there's no spiritual connection there. Okay, you're not able to even sit down and have an intellectual conversation. There's a complete disconnect. So you can't even get to the sex part. Okay, so let's stop looking at those first three letters of the word of sexuality, and we're going to look at the entire word. Because sexuality is pretty much kind of like an umbrella term. And so with this here word, sexuality encompasses your likes and your dislikes, your attractions, any type of biological thinking, or what you've learned, what you know, don't know about your body, your ability to communicate. So sexuality is very much an umbrella term. Okay, there are some attractions. All of that plays into your sexuality. And so with husbands and wives, I come along and help you to be able to express that with your spouse. And then if you're engaged to be married, and then I just come alongside you to help you with that, especially if you're not engaging in the physical parts of your relationship. That physical intimacy part is the part that God created for husband and wife. So in order sometimes for a couple, a husband and a wife, to get to the physical part, there are hurdles in their communication that they can't get past. Or they may be involved in the physical part of their intimacy, but it is mediocre. I'll use that word. It's mediocre. And just trying to get over the hurdles of why your body is changing, trying to explain that to your spouse, sometimes it's very difficult, because a lot of times, women, we don't understand it ourselves. Men, we don't understand it. We are all dealing with hormones. Okay, so we have the hormones we have to contend with. We have other stresses like our jobs, children. And so our other responsibilities, maybe we have responsibilities at our church. So we have other, stresses that cause us to have difficulties being able to relate, being able to, as I like to call it, get naked in our thoughts with our spouse. As a sexuality coach, I come along and help you with those things. Other things that affect our sexuality that a lot of people do not think about, and a lot of people don't want to believe, but it is absolutely true. Your nutrition has a lot to do with it. Your water intake, or lack thereof, has a lot to do with it. The changing in your hormones has a lot to do with your sexuality. And then if you're not able to communicate these things, then a lot of times with people, it's just the fact that you've been married so long, you take each other for granted. So as a sexuality coach, I come along beside you and help you to get over these hurdles so that your marriage is not sitting at a stagnant state. That your marriage is able to help you thrive in your marriage. And when others see your marriage, they say, oh, that is what marriage is like. That's what it's like to be in a marriage, because God created this, and we are not to walk around here with our heads held down and being a terrible example of what marriage is. Okay? If you're married, if you're in it, and then if you are a believer, you say you're a Christian, you want your marriage to thrive, because we know what God says about marriage. And if you don't, you need a sexuality coach to help you with that. A sexuality coach who is a believer that Jesus Christ is Lord. So, if you're married, you need a sexuality coach. If you say you do not, I want to talk to you just to see why you do not need a sexuality coach. And if you don't, I will high five you, tell you you're right. You do not need a sexuality coach. But I would like to have a conversation with you. Right? I am Candace Blair Isaacs with CBI Coaching. My information is in the description. How can I help you? Okay? Let's stop playing around, because there are a lot of us who do not have a sexuality coach, who's not talking to anyone, and we're living in these marriages struggling, bored, don't want to spend time with each other, when that's not what marriage is supposed to be like. We're not being a good example of this beautiful institution of marriage that God created. Okay? It's time to stop being ashamed to want to talk to someone, because you're only hurting yourself, and you're not being a good example of what Christ ordained, what God ordained. Okay? So, how can I help you? I am Candace Blair Isaacs, CBI Coaching. Remember, let everything that you do be done with love. Until next week, bye-bye.